Hi everyone, welcome back to the Clock Shop. This is Jim with JR Clocker on eBay. I just wanted to take a little time and make a video on when I'm out at auction or I'm looking at clocks or somebody's bringing a clock in for me to repair and they'd like to have an estimate. And by the way, our rule is no clocks stay in the shop without an approved estimate. So we need to take estimates and do them right away, and we do it on the fly. And what I'm about to show you is what I would normally go through. I'm not going to take the movement, show you how to take the movement out of the clock. Most of you can figure that out. Take the hands off first, put them securely aside, check for if the movement's going to be interfered with by the chime bars or if it's a chime clock or whatever it is. Today we're going to be working with probably one of the easiest movements that you can work on. It's a Seth Thomas 89 with the split back plate. So it's easy to get into the springs, and it's just an easy movement to work with. The other ones I really like working with are Ansonia time and strike movements. They're really easy, pretty easy to put together, especially the ones that use a single lever post to start and stop the chiming. That's, the striking, sorry, I misspoke. But anyway, let's go through it. Okay, I recently saw a question about an 89 movement, so I picked a Seth Thomas 89 movement here. The question was talking about it running too fast, uncontrollably fast. They had just purchased it or received the clock. They set it up, they start running it. They've turned the pendulum all the way down as far as it will go, and it's still running uncontrollably fast. Can you give us a hint of what's going on? All right, I'll tell you exactly what's going on. One of two things. The first, not probably the issue, but contributing to the issue, is weak springs. On this particular movement, we have a relatively new spring here. It looks like it was one of the American-made springs that they're not doing anymore. Again, here's the 89, so you know it's a Seth Thomas 89. Over here is probably an original spring. It needs some help, or very crappy replacement. But this has some time to it. I bet you if I take this and open this up, this spring is what we consider set. Meaning it's set in its ways. It's not giving you everything that it once had. All right. The next probable reason, and the latter here is probably actually what's going on, is the bushings need to be replaced. And on this one in particular, right up here at the escapement, that's like the worst one to have to be need to be replaced, because there's no getting around when that bushing is loose. This clock doesn't want to run. It has hardly any power. I will try to wind it a little bit here, and trying to look around the camera. All right, I'll try to wind it a little. And so it's wound up a little bit now, and it does have a little bit more power, but that just proves a point. Okay, this clock, or the clock that's being asked about, is running fast because there's a power loss. Now, the power loss may be from a set spring. It may be from bad bushings. It may be a combination. In this case here, for this movement, it's probably the bushings. This one, believe it or not, this one is no. We have a rule. Dirty clock movements run fast. When you start taking power away from the escapement, The pendulum doesn't swing as far, but it swings far enough to run. And when it swings shorter, it runs faster. Okay, when you get the power back to it, it then does a full swing and runs more in time. People go, there's no matter what I do, if I lengthen this, I could probably get it to run in time. But the problem is that's not the problem. The problem is you need to solve the issue that the clock movement has. This company, Seth Thomas, really good. Great engineers. Why think that you'd have to add something to the work that they did? No, you're just making a MacGyver move out of it. And that's just it actually ends up hurting the clock movement more than it ever would help. I mean, it helps maybe for a short amount of time where the clock will run on time or in time, but there's a bigger problem with it because spring-driven clocks are the least accurate out there. Fusee is the next accurate, but weight-driven is the most accurate because you always have the same amount of pressure on the train at all times. Spring-driven are only as good as, well, in this case, this spring is terrible, and this spring's probably okay. Why don't we take a look at the two springs let out? Okay, off camera, I've let out the springs on this movement. And although this one maybe doesn't look as set as I thought of it when it was all wound up, it is definitely much weaker, and I mean weaker, than this one on this side here. Okay, this is a time side. I would venture to guess at some point in time, somebody said, well, the problem with your movement and it not running is that this spring needs to be replaced because a lot of amateur repair people take a peek at this movement and go, oh, it's easy to repair, to put a new spring on it. And actually, they may actually have gotten it to run for a little bit. But the problem still remains that bushing right there is the culprit here. And that needs to be redone. And if you're there, you might as well there's a couple other loose ones here, you might as well do them too. And while you have the movement completely apart, you might as well check this side. All I'm doing is taking pressure off the train and putting it back on. And you can see, there's a little rust residue in there, so you need to clean that off anyway. Again, this is not a hard movement to work with. It does have two levers positions here, which makes it a little bit more difficult to put back together. But if you're patient, you take your time, you can put them back together relatively easy. I was doing a little class the other day about putting movements back together, and it's not that hard. Look, if you don't have these assembly clamps, they work great for testing your clock because it's really easy to put them on. All you do is do that, come up here and do this. I didn't prepare this. I just see them sitting here, so I'm just going to use one on the bottom. But when you're putting a clock back together, actually, I don't have this. Again, I didn't prepare this. I wasn't prepared to do this. I just saw them sitting there. So I normally would have another one over here, and then you would turn it over, and then you can, let me pull the camera back here, then you could just, take the clock apart now that the springs are done. I wouldn't take clocks apart with the springs wound down like this. I would put a clamp in them, and then take it apart. Again, this one's a real easy one because all you have to do is take a couple screws off, a couple nuts off, and this bottom plate comes right out, which makes it really, really easy if you have broken springs. If you have to do bushings, you got to take the whole thing apart anyway. Anyway, it's just a little video. I just wanted to go over and take a look at why clocks run fast. And again, while we're here, we'll take a look at this side and what I'm doing. Okay, I'm just taking the pressure off, and look, this one needs to be redone. Oh, look at that one. That's the escapement on the other side. Okay, and they need to be redone. They need bushings. This thing needs a total overhaul, minus maybe one spring. And when we do total overhauls, we do bushings, we polish everything, and we check springs for set. I'll do a video here on how you can tell a set spring. It's really not hard. When you take them all apart, you lay the spring out. One lays out real big and one lays out a lot smaller. You can pretty much tell that it's set. This one, I would definitely replace this spring. And there's a lot of argument. Oh, replace springs. You don't need to replace springs. Yes, you do. Okay. The clock is only the most accurate when it has good, fresh springs. And as long as you have one here, why wouldn't you put one over here? And that's what I suggest doing. When we do a service, we put a lot of springs in because it just makes it easier. I tell people, when you get your clock back, the movement will be as good as the day it was made. Okay? This movement was probably made in the 1920s because of the split plate. I believe that's the time frame of this movement. And when we get done the overhaul on this, it will be as good as the day it was made. It's really, some I say better, like a Sessions that doesn't have formal bushings in it like this clock does. It actually will be better because the bushings will be actually better. Instead of just drilling a hole in a brass, you're actually going to have bushings in there with an oil well and all that, and so you'll have the proper amount of oil in the pivots all the time. But anyway, so that's my short little video is going longer, but I just want you to understand that there's a real science to this, and the first rule of the science is dirty clocks run fast. The next after that is dirty clocks that need overhauls run fast too. It's never, ever, there's a really easy way to test. Oil your clocks, spot clean your clocks. And what we do is we'll put oil in the pivot, all right? I'll tell people to do this. We don't do it, but I'll put an oil in the pivot here, let it get all soaked in, and then I'll take a Q-tip and do both inside plate and outside plate, and they can clean it out. That's what I call spot cleaning. And then you can go and try your movement again. That way you don't have to take it apart and everything, but oftentimes when you put the oil in a pivot like this, inside that bushing like that, little dirt that's in there gets kicked out, and this even looks worse. Okay, so it looks worse, and then it just tells you you need to have bushing. So a clock that may be running, but running real fast, and you do a spot clean on it like this, may not run anymore. And you'll go, what happened? Well, it's because you loosened some of the dirt that was holding the bushing somewhat in place, or the pivot inside the bushing somewhat in place, and now by cleaning it, you've taken that dirt away, and that has caused the movement not to be able to run. So, look, there's no big science about this. If you want to message me, we use letdown tools like this. We use assembly clamps like this. And by the way, I just bought a clock shop, and that's what came out of it. I would never use this actual one because it needs to be cleaned up before use. But this is not how I keep my stuff. I just want to point that out because it's pretty cruddy. I think we found this on the floor in the basement. It will clean up real nice. I mean, steel cleans up, brass cleans up. It'll be nice. But anyway, you know, you need some clamps. All this stuff is available. Just let me know. I'll get it to you. The letdown keys are really important for your knuckles. And a lot of you people know what I'm talking about. And once you get there, you know, bushing is the way you want to do it. You want to hand do it. You know, I should do a video on doing hand bushings. There was one around there for a number of years. I don't know if it's around anymore. But my apprenticeship, I was an apprentice for 4 years under a master clockmaker, and I taped up my fingers every morning, and I did bushings all day long. It wasn't until I opened up my own shop that I got my first bushing machine. And I've never had to do hand bushings again, although actually every once in a while I do. I'll do a hand bushing just to make sure I can still do it. But anyway, you know, lots of times if there's a clock and there's only needs one bushing, that's very rare, by the way, that you only need one bushing. And it looks like on this side here, oh, look at that. That needs a bushing. That will tell you right there. You really want to know why you need a bushing. This is where it's supposed to be. This is where it is. Anyway, that really kind of goes over why clocks run fast. American 8-day count wheel clocks run fast. 30 hours is really kind of hard to do. I mean, they do run fast, but they only run for 30 hours. Anyway, we're going to do some more of these videos for you here, get a little bit better idea. Otherwise, this movement's in pretty good overall condition. You know, good cleaning, taken apart, a good cleaning, at least one new spring, and it looks to be about 6 or maybe 8 bushings. And this clock will be like the day it was made. I'm telling you. And it will be good for 25 years with a little oil here and there, maybe longer. Okay, that's our little segment I wanted to put together. I see a lot of Facebook groups that I'm in. They have these questions. They just bought a clock. They got it home. It's running. I love it. It's running great, but it's running really fast. And I turn it all the way down, and it's still running really, really fast. Well, that means it's not running great, and that you really need to look further into what may be the situation with your particular movement. Unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, if you have no inclination to do the work yourself, then it's going to cost you some money to have somebody else do it. Total overhaul for the movement that we just looked at in my shop would be about $250. And you would have it back in approximately 2 to 4 weeks. If we're really running fast, it's 2 weeks, because we do the actual work on the clock only takes about 4 hours. But the testing of the movement after that, it tends to be, well, at least a week, because I want to see it run and keep reasonably good time for a week. If there's some other adjustments we have to make, you're right into between 9 to 2 weeks, because if it happens in the 3rd day of testing, then we're still going to run it for a full week. So that's usually how it goes, and how backed up we are determines how fast that first 4 hours go. But normally it takes about 4 hours to deassemble, clean it, inspect it, do the bushings, and reassemble it. And in that 4 hours also includes the time during testing that we spend with it. Looking at it for 5 minutes every day, whatever it takes. But we average about 4 hours physically working or adjusting a clock from the time it comes in the shop and the time it leaves. But we've been doing it for a long time, and so this clock here, I can put it on a computer because there's a lot of records and timing and whatever. I can time it. Then once we time it, then we just put it on a shelf and watch it run. Normally, you don't have to touch it again. It's very, very, very rarely. You put it back in the case halfway through, and then you level it, and then you set the beat, and then you move on from there, and that's about it. Pretty much, and we give one year warranties, but 18 months into it, you're having a problem. 2 years into it, you're having a problem. 3 years into it, you're having a problem. Unless it's something you caused, no worries. Bring it by. We'll take a fast look at it for you. Oftentimes, it's people move a clock with the pendulum still on it, and they knock it out of beat, and so we have to just put it real fast in beat. And that's usually on our level table. We'll literally put it there. You'd be surprised how many people walk in with the pendulum still on the movement, and even these 98s with the little hooks, you take the pendulum bob off, and when you're traveling. Anyway, I hope you all are having good happy holiday, and we'll see you next time. Oh, subscribe, will you? And leave a comment if there's another movement or something else you want me to look at and explain. Just let me know, and I'll do that. Be glad. I'm always looking for ideas on different videos that we can do. And you ever want to see me assemble a movement or something like that? That's pretty easy to do too. I'll do a video on that. Disassembling would be just the opposite of what I would do in an assembly. No. Anyway, I should do a disassemble only because so you know the right way to do it, and not so you don't get hurt or you don't hurt the movement. All right? Thank you for stopping by. Come back and see us at the clock shop again real soon.